Hello everybody and welcome to 100 Days of Stardew Valley Expanded. If you're unfamiliar with Stardew Valley Expanded, it is a wonderful mod that you can download for your Stardew Valley game that adds a ton of new features, including new characters, new cutscenes, new locations, and a ton more other things. Now, I feel like I've played a lot of Stardew Valley, and I've played a little bit of Stardew Valley here on the channel as well too, but the one thing I've been putting off for a while now is exploring one of Stardew Valley's most popular mods, which is Stardew Valley Expanded. Because of all of the new features that the game adds, a lot of which I still am not even familiar with even after 100 days, I went into this playthrough with very minimal goals. One, I just simply wanted to see how much I could accomplish in 100 days, especially because I know that a lot of the other new features are going to be hidden kind of behind a much longer playthrough. But in addition to that, I've always wanted to try and see what happens when I romance someone in this game. For the most part, whenever I play this game, I tend to live more of like a single farmer lifestyle, but this time around, I wanted to see what it was like to go for more of a family route, start a family, maybe have some kids, and see how that kind of playthrough goes. And like I said, there are going to be a lot of new features that I don't experience in the first 100 days that I'm fairly positive happen after year one, so I do plan on actually keeping this farm and this playthrough going for a little while, definitely into year two, maybe even into year three, and then just see how far we go from there. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy my first 100 days in Stardew Valley Expanded. Day one was the usual new farm routine for me. After clearing a portion of my farm to plant my starting seeds, I explored the various new areas that the expanded mod adds and introduced myself to the old and some of the new townsfolk introduced in the mod. That night, I was surprised when the farm got a visit from a crop fairy. If you're unfamiliar with what a crop fairy does, well, as you can see here on day two, I already have full crops grown. Incredible for just 2 days in and to already be making such a profit. After I met with Willie on the docks to get my very first fishing rod and spent all of my money on cauliflower seeds, I went ahead and introduced myself to everyone else that I could to finally complete the introductions quest. Clinton visited the farm at the beginning of day 3 to give the furnace recipe, and as always on day 3, it was a rainy day, so I spent all of my energy that day doing a lot of farm cleanup since I didn't have access to the mine just quite yet. Day 4, and I get my very first cutscene with Sophia. This cutscene is pretty great because she gives you just a straight up sprinkler, which is both incredibly nice and super helpful, especially because she also has the ability to buy from her as well too. The rest of the day I spent continuing the cleaning up of the farm. Day 5 was a day filled with quite a few events. First, Marnie brought me a cat she found, which I of course adopted. Next was the cutscene with Lewis to talk about the rundown community center as I made my way into town. And finally, there was a new cutscene with the dog in Pelican Town named Dusty. In the vanilla version of the game, you can't approach this dog. It's completely blocked off by fences. And this is one of the things about Stardew Valley Expanded that I really loved. Not just adding new characters, but bringing life to other familiar characters, Dusty being one of them. I did make a mistake when it came to buying seeds later on that day, so I used this website called Stardew Valley Profits, which is a great site you can use to figure out which seeds are most profitable to buy depending on things like the day, your farming level, if you're using fertilizer, etc. Well, when I did it, I forgot to put with fertilizer. Without fertilizer, it shows green beans being the most profitable, which is what I bought. But with fertilizer, it shows that I actually should have bought potatoes on this day instead, so yeah, a little bit of a hiccup on my part, but at the end of the day, no big deal. The next day, as expected, I got a letter from the wizard requesting to see me after my encounter in the community center yesterday. After drinking the wizard's magical tree drink, I noticed that the interior was vastly different thanks to the expanded mod, so I went back in to explore. There's this new room in his basement that contained a ton of his books, the Shrine of Illusions, which is cool because in the vanilla game you actually have to have 4 hearts with the wizard before you can access this, and a ton of what looks to be teleporters, which I of course can't use yet. It was another rainy day, so I decided to make my first trip to the mines today. In Expanded, the mines are located just a little bit further away from the town, so I always kept it in the back of my mind from here on out to try and fix the mine carts as soon as possible. I was able to get to level 10, got my leather boots, and built my first furnace. On my way to do my daily chat with Sophia on day 7, I met the new farmer, Andy. I say new in quotes because in the expanded mod, he has actually been a farmer here in Pelican Town for quite some time. Otherwise, with not much money and not much else to do today, it was back to the mines where I was only able to get as far as level 18 before it got too late for me to continue without passing out. Strawberry seeds from Andy arrived in the mail on day 8, and this was a nice reminder to me that I needed to start saving my money to buy my own strawberry seeds in the upcoming festival just a few days from now. After planting my new strawberry seeds, it was back to the mine for some progression. It was a good luck day, and I certainly felt like it was, because I was able to make it all the way down to level 30, a stark difference from my efforts the day before. I was able to return and get to a nice checkpoint in the mines on day 9, got to level 40. I got my slingshot, but more importantly, I now had access to iron ore. Day 10, and the current routine continues of giving my daily greeting to Sophia and then returning to the mines. At this point, progression slowed quite a bit, because with my current pickaxe, I'm just using too much energy to try and progress through levels. Andy visited the farm on day 11 to warn me about the crows, and the quest for Robin's axe was in the mail as well, which I went ahead and found and returned to her promptly. I still needed about 2,000 more gold to afford the pickaxe upgrade, so with no crops ready and 3 days until the Egg Festival, where I'll be buying a ton of strawberry seeds, I ended up just doing a lot of mountain fishing. On day 12, I completed a job posting by giving Sebastian an aquamarine and noticed I was getting really close to affording my upgrade. But at this point, the Egg Festival was coming up, and I wanted to make sure I had enough money to buy strawberry seeds, so I decided to forego the pickaxe upgrade for the time being. After getting some cauliflower seeds from the museum as a reward, I did a bit more fishing for the day, and did my farming at night. Day 13, and the day of the Egg Festival finally. With my current money, I had enough to buy at maximum 29 strawberry seeds, and I had already decided that I was just going to go ahead and go broke, and buy all 29 strawberry seeds that I could. Before I headed to the festival, I made sure to prepare my farm for after the festival, since it was going to be pretty late when I got back and I wanted to make sure I had enough time to plant and water everything before the day ended. I was able to find 9 eggs, which was still more than enough for the win. I put on my victory hat, left the festival, and hurriedly planted my strawberry seeds. The day after the festival, day 14, it is finally cauliflower harvest day. With that day's profits, I bought more seeds and made sure to save enough money to buy my new pickaxe upgrade. With no way through the mines, I said my daily hello to Sophia and became a fisherman for the rest of the day. Well, except that with limited inventory, I could only really fish so much before I ran out of room. Not wanting to constantly run back and forth to drop off at the shipping bin and then go back to fishing, I ended up doing a little farm cleaning and made a note to myself that the next thing I buy should be the backpack upgrade. Lewis on day 15 was standing at the landslide blocking Pelican Town's access to the railroad tracks, wishing Jojo would do something about it already. He also talked about a woman named Susan, a new NPC in Stardew Valley Expanded who actually lives up near the railroad tracks, and I remembered that I actually got a letter from her back in the beginning of the playthrough where she introduced herself and wished that she could get out too. I also got the classic cutscene with Jazz and Vince creeping around near the sewers. Otherwise, what else to do this day but do some fishing? Day 16 was a pretty great day. I picked up my now upgraded copper pickaxe, I bought the expanded backpack upgrade at Pierre's, the first one out of the 2 that you can get, and the new pickaxe already worked wonders. I headed back to the mine to test it out, and I was able to reach a checkpoint of level 55. Back into the mines on day 17, where I was able to reach level 60 for my new main weapon, a crystal dagger, and level 65 as the day's final checkpoint. On the way home, I found the last thing I needed for the spring foraging bundle, and also found Linus digging through the trash, but of course I'm not going to call him out or anything. He's just trying to live the best life he can after all. I took my axe to Clint's on day 18 to start getting it upgraded. I figured it would help with clearing out not only the trees on my farm more efficiently, but also help towards gathering hardwood as well too. I also got my master slingshot by getting to level 70 in the mines. I don't really use the slingshot, and I don't think I use the master slingshot at all, but still, it's a nice thing to get. Back in the mine, I was so close to reaching gold, but could only get to level 79 before having to call it quits. I did get level 5 mining that day and unlocked my very first profession, which I chose to be miner. My copper pickaxe was ready for pickup on day 20, and while it was over here, I also went ahead and fixed the broken bridge at the beach, so that I could start foraging around there as well on good luck days. Getting to level 80 of the mines was definitely much easier today, but I really needed another pickaxe upgrade before proceeding further, just like when I first reached iron. One thing I always noticed outside the museum is the addition of this new, what looks to be like a community garden. On day 21, I had a fun cutscene with Leah about the community garden. In general, just a cool new feature added with Expanded. It doesn't really look like I can do anything with it, at least on my end, I headed to Clint's afterwards to begin the upgrading of my copper pickaxe to a steel one, and so with that being done, I wanted to try my hand at fishing off of this new bridge to the east of town. There's a fish here that is, surprisingly, one of Sophia's favorite things, and when you see it, if you haven't seen it before, is quite strange and also very funny. It won't be today though, because catching that particular fish, even at my current fishing level apparently, was still pretty difficult, so I gave up on that and went ocean fishing instead. In-game moms in any game you play are always the best, and on day 22, our in-game mom for Stardew Valley was no different, sending us 500 gold in the mail. With the last of the crops I needed to complete the spring crops bundle being harvested today, I was able to unlock the boiler room, so I could start working towards unlocking the minecarts. I donated a few things to get it moving, which also unlocked the vault and the bulletin board. And at this point, I had talked enough with Sophia to get our friendship level up to 2 hearts. So when I went to visit her later on that day, I saw that she was speaking with her friend Scarlett from a town called Grampleton. It seemed to be a pretty serious conversation, so I told her I had heard nothing. Not sure that she believed it. Oh, and I also upgraded my fishing rod too. My new steel pickaxe was ready to be picked up the next day, day 23, and as always, it was time to test it out. Today's run ended at level 90, which was totally fine by me since it got me the Obsidian Edge reward and my new main weapon. With a better pickaxe and a really good weapon now, mine progression should start going by a little bit easier from here on out. Day 24 of spring is, as always, the day of the Flower Dance Festival. But lately, I've been making a habit, especially during the first year of new farms, to skip this event, particularly because, well, I don't have a date, at least not yet, and I really didn't feel like standing around and watching everybody dance while I just stood off on the sidelines. So while everyone was at the festival, I made my way back through and made it to level 105 of the mines, also notably reaching level 100 for my first star drop of the playthrough, and also reaching level 5 in combat that night and choosing the fighter profession. I did a ton of geode cracking and museum donating on day 25 and was able to get enough things to complete all of the boiler room bundles thanks to all the work that I've been doing in the mines up until this point. Speaking of which, I got my space boots in the mine at level 110 and went ahead and sped all the way through to go ahead and complete the mines, reaching level 120 that day. That night, I was able to choose my level 5 farming profession, which I chose to be Tiller, with the Junimos fixing the mine carts for me that night as well. Demetrius visited the farm on day 26 to discuss the cave on the farm. This time around, I chose to implement the bat fruit cave. Even though it wasn't my main goal to complete the community center as fast as possible during this run, I figured it wouldn't hurt to possibly complete it sooner rather than later, and the really only way to do that is to get the fruit bat cave instead of the mushroom cave, at least in regards to this opportunity right here. With my progression in the mines practically done, I thought it was a good time to start working on getting some farm buildings built. I went to Robin and had her start working on building a coop for me, and also dropped off my watering can at Clint's for an upgrade. That way, when the new season comes about, I'm using less energy per water, as I'm already expecting to be watering a lot in the beginning of summer. Day 27 and day 28 were both fairly simple. I spent all day both days preparing the farm for summer, getting areas ready for crops, figuring out where I wanted things for ease of use in the upcoming weeks, and once again anticipating the great amount of seeds I was getting ready to purchase. And with that being said, once day 28 was over, spring was done and summer began. Day 29, the first day of summer. After picking up my new upgraded watering can as well as one of every seed I would need for the community center, I stocked up on blueberry seeds. As expected, all of my time and energy today went into taking care of my new crops. I did overlook that Robin had finished my coop and so completely forgot to buy any chickens today, but of course, nothing to do about it now. It was bad luck day on day 30, so I spent the day clearing the farm and doing some summer foraging, which allowed me to go ahead and complete the summer foraging bundle. That night, there was also a noise indicating that the path to the railroad track had finally been cleared. The next morning, I was finally able to meet Susan, who, as I mentioned earlier, owns a farm next to the railroad track that she calls Emerald Farm. When I went up there to check out Susan's farm, I saw Clint where he pointed out this new gigantic rock overlooking the railroad track. He asked me to meet him at his shop later, but on the way there, I overheard a pretty bad argument between Morris and Lewis, where Morris was incredibly Joja, like more Joja than usual, if that makes any sense. Anyway, Clint said he needs iridium ore and coal to remove the boulder, which means I would need to get the bus fixed so that I could get iridium ore from the Skull Caverns. I would need bombs. Lots of bombs. So, it was ore farming time. Day 32, Susan sent us some melon seeds in the mail, which was incredibly kind of her. After planting them, as I mentioned before, I still need more bombs, so it was back to ore farming. I took a break from mining on day 33 and instead started fishing for all the new fish that I would need for the community center, as well as just to have some extra cash on hand. I got my level 5 fishing profession that night, choosing the fisher profession. One area of my farm I've been holding off on was the cutting of grass because I hadn't built a silo yet. On day 34, I started to remedy that by getting the silo started, and then it was back to more fishing. While continuing my fishing into day 35, I talked with Willie in his boat shop, where he talks about how business has been not so great as of late, as well as pointing out the door behind him, and that maybe one day we'll get to see what's behind there. Spoilers, I know what's behind there. Day 36, and the silo was complete, so I stayed on the farm all day, clearing out all that pesky grass, and then, since I was already here, I figured I'd go ahead and just continue and do a little more total farm clearing. Back to ore farming on day 37. One little trick that I know that you can use as well if you didn't know is that if you need a lot of iron ore, which is a key component to making bombs, just constantly travel back and forth between level 40 and the mine entrance like I'm doing here, and you can see that every time I go back into level 40, it just spawns new ore or new monsters for me to farm, so nice little tip for you if you didn't know. Day 38 ended up being a fishing day, but really only because I really tried to catch that fish for Sophia, but still no success. I was able to complete the crab pot bundle though, so that was nice. The luau was on day 39, and I completely just didn't even think about saving anything for this. I had a quality hot pepper on me when the event started, and so I figured, it's a quality thing. Maybe it'll go well. It went okay. Nobody seemed to like it all that much. Back on the farm, the fruit cave is starting to pay off a little bit, as I already started to get tons of fruit for the artisan bundle, and I also achieved level 5 foraging as well, choosing the forester profession. Day 40 started with a lot of geode cracking and museum donating in the morning. With the vault unlocked, I had started thinking about saving money to donate to those bundles, but I instead bought an iridium fishing rod. I figured that this would help me not only because of the better overall return on investment of just being able to catch better quality fish, but also because a better fishing rod helped me catch Sophia's favorite fish finally, which is a puppy fish. Literally a fish with a dog's head. Stardew Valley Expanded is amazing. It was a rainy day on day 41, and thus a perfect opportunity to do a little rain fishing for the community center, and an excuse to do a little bit more puppy fish farming as well for Sophia. This is also the day I got to level 6 farming, the level where I can start making my own quality sprinklers. Day 42, and the first blueberry harvest of the season. On my way to sell them at Pierre's, I had this neat cutscene with Demetrius, where he adds a bit more lore to Stardew Valley's namesake and origins. He talks about how there was like a meteor that came down and it did something to the soil, and that's why the soil does what it does in Stardew Valley, in Pelican Town. And I just think it's a really neat thing to add to give, again, that little bit of lore and background to the town. With the money I got for my blueberries, I started the building of a barn, and with the blueberries, I was also able to complete the summer crops bundle. By day 43, I had reached 4 hearts with Sophia with all my gifting and talking to her, and her cutscene this time was in front of Harvey's clinic as I made my way into town, where she didn't appear to be doing all that well. I had the option of trying to cheer her up, which took the form of taking her to pet and play with Dusty, the dog I mentioned earlier, which seemed to work very well. While buying seeds to fill in the empty spots near my sprinklers, I went ahead and purchased the final backpack upgrade as well. I then went ahead and started fishing for more puppy fish gifts for Sophia for next week. Day 44 was a good luck day, which was great because I needed more coal and ores for more sprinklers, so I spent all day in the mines trying to gather those. Robin completed the barn on day 45, and so I bought the farm's first cow. I took note that my blueberries were going to be harvestable the following day, so I took my axe in to start being upgraded, since money was coming in and I was basically going to get all that back the next day. And when the money did come in the next day, at this point I was very close to just taking care of the biggest vault bundle, which is 25,000 gold. So even though it was a bad luck day, I went fishing to see if I could inch my profits closer just little by little. Day 47, and I now have access to the secret woods thanks to my now upgraded steel axe. Using my new axe, I also cleared the way to this new old building that's now just south of the bus station. There was nothing of interest here at the time when I went inside, so I left it for now. I'm still so close to finishing the 25,000 gold bundle for the vault, so I test my patience with the fish once again to try and earn a little bit more money on day 48. Day 49 was a fairly simple day. I knew the blueberries were going to be harvested the next day, and so I didn't even bother with fishing. After I got my 6th heart with Sophia, I spent the rest of the afternoon just clearing out the farm. halfway through the 100 days playthrough here on day 50, Blueberry Harvest Day, and with the funds I got from that, I was able to afford both the 25,000 and 10,000 gold bundles. Finishing the rest of the vault bundles now would be pretty cheap in comparison. But it was a bad luck day, so I figured it wasn't a bad time to just head back to the farm and clear out more trees. Thanks to the Fruit Bat Cave, I was able to finish the Artisan bundle on day 51. After doing so, I saw a cutscene with Sophia at the town cemetery. When I went to go check the gravestone, it read, "In loving memory of Robert and Alice," and I was prompted to check on Sophia, which I did. This actually explains so much and opens up a lot of her backstory, because I had always noticed when I went to visit her that her kitchen table had 3 chairs but only one setting, a board game set up for 3 players that was really dusty, and of course a master bedroom that seemed so different from the rest of the house. At first, she wanted to be alone, but as I left, she came around, asked if a friend could stay and cheer her up, and so I did, and we watched anime all day. Day 52 was just a work day as normal. It was a good luck day, so back to the mines I went. The first melon harvest happened on day 53, and with the profits I got from them, the vault bundles were finally completed. Do you remember that building, the entrance I cleared out a few days ago and basically nothing was going on? Well, that evening I got a visit from Robin asking me to help investigate that building with her. She asked me to stop by her home to discuss renovations, but it was late, so it would have to be taken care of another time. And that night, the Junimos fixed the bus stop, giving me access to the desert. Day 54, and the final blueberry harvest of the season, the last big harvest of the season. With the bus being fixed now, I headed straight to Calico Desert, which, thanks to Stardew Valley Expanded, as well as with a ton of other areas, this was now a huge area, and things are moved around a bit. If you didn't know, spicy eel is a really good meal to take with you during Skull Cavern runs, since it gives you speed and luck, and here at the Desert Trader, you can exchange rubies for spicy eel, so after exchanging what I had with the Desert Trader, I made my way through the caverns, making it surprisingly 40 plus levels deep. I took note that I really needed a better weapon, but I also definitely needed a better pickaxe. I went ahead and started upgrading my pickaxe the following day, day 55, as doing any work in the Skull Caverns would be nothing short of a chore without it. I used this as an opportunity to check with Robin finally to see what she needs for that building by the bus stop, and it is a lot. In addition to hardwood and stone, she also required a lot of iron bars and a lot of battery packs. In spite of the fact that all that stuff was going to take quite a bit to get, I started taking note of my inventory at the farm so I could start getting things ready for that renovation. Day 56 and the last day of summer. Because I had cleared 25 levels from the Skull Cavern, I got a letter in the mail from the mysterious Mr. Key with a very generous reward of 10,000 gold. I was able to get to a 7th heart cutscene with Sophia as well. This time, the cutscene was in the cellar of her home, where she was tending to the many casks that were built by her parents. I spent a little bit more time with her, getting to know about her parents, and she asked if I could return at a later date to help her with her parents' bedroom. After preparing my farm for the upcoming season, I headed to the Dance of the Moonlight Chellies. Always a surprisingly nice reprieve from all the work that's been done at this point, and as always, a wonderful way to end summer and into fall. Day 57, the first day of fall. My gold pickaxe was ready, and on the way home, I headed to Pierre's to pick up this season's seeds. I picked up enough for what I needed for the community center, as well as quality pumpkins and corn. I unfortunately messed up pretty big this time with my crop buying, however. Because cranberries aren't part of the fall crops bundle, I didn't even think to buy them. And do you remember that Profits website I mentioned earlier? Well, the best thing to buy on day 1 of fall is, you guessed it, cranberries. Well, by the time I'd realized this, I had already moved on to the next day, so that meant I was already preparing for a lot less money this season than I originally thought. Day 58 brings the construction of the Special Orders board, a much fancier and more difficult version of the usual jobs board that's posted outside of Pierre's. I went to Sophia's to help her fix up her parents' room like we had talked about a few days ago, and as a thank you, she said she would send something in the mail. After unsuccessfully cracking geodes to try and get iridium ore for Clint's boulder task, I spent all night in the Skull Cavern trying to get some, luckily coming away with 20 before the day was over. Sophia's thank you letter came the next day with aged Blue Moon wine, which is a specialty of her vineyard that sells for a lot. But it was a gift, so I made sure to put it in storage, that way I made sure to never accidentally sell it. I dropped off the coal and iridium ore at Clint's that he needed, getting 3,000 gold as a reward, and I had planned to go fishing for the community center bundles, but the only fish I needed at this point could only be caught during the rain. Luckily, on day 60, it did rain, and I was able to catch all the fish I needed to complete the fish tank and have the Junimos remove the glittering boulder from the mountain river that night. I got my copper pan from Willy the next day because of the boulder removal, giving me the ability to pan for various ores and items in the rivers whenever I see a shining spot. I realized that I needed way more stone if I was going to keep on building farm buildings and upgrading farm buildings, so that's pretty much all I did on day 61. And day 62. Well, I also did go ahead and start my house upgrade too. Day 63 was, you guessed it, but while I was here in the area, I also wanted to see if I could buy a better weapon than the Obsidian Edge from the Adventurers Guild. The Lava Katana would be the best thing, but I was also holding out hope that I might soon run into a prismatic shard that I could take to the desert to get a better weapon. But until that time came, buying the Lava Katana was the best I could do for a better weapon. But I couldn't afford it. So I decided on day 64 to fish for money to be able to buy it, basically fishing all day in order to do so. I also had a letter from Linus in my mail asking if anybody who found his basket could return it to him, and just like Robin's axe, I found it and returned it to him promptly. The house upgrade was finished on day 65, adding a whole second room and a brand new kitchen. With the money I had, I bought the Lava Katana and simply hoped I didn't spend all this money just to come across a prismatic shard soon. And wouldn't you know it, soon wasn't the next day, or even the next week. Nope, I took the Lava Katana into the Skull Caverns that day and found not one, but 2 prismatic shards that night. I couldn't help but laugh as I took the prismatic shard to the pillars in the desert to get my galaxy sword, which is obviously much better than the very expensive katana that I just bought. I went ahead and tried out my new loadout in the Skull Caverns on day 66, now swiftly being able to make it from floor to floor. All this mining finally got me to level 10 in mining as well, and as the profession that I chose, I decided to go with Prospector. On day 67, the area Clint needed iridium ore and coal for had finally been cleared by his bomb. I went out to it to see what was up there, and it's just a nice bench on a cliff top overlooking the valley, which is just another neat addition with Stardew Valley Expanded. Otherwise, it didn't seem like too much to do there at the moment. I guess I'm hoping and waiting to see whether or not there's any new events that happen here. So for now, I made my way through the Skull Caverns once more. I was surprised to see Emily at the farm the next day for her cutscene, but I guess at some point I had acquired cloth while progressing through the Skull Caverns, and so she was stopping by to give me access to her sewing machine, which was really nice. One thing that I can't say that I've really ever used that much. After another day in the caverns, I was lucky enough to get a second crop fairy visit that night. 2 crop fairies in just 68 days. Day 69, I got a letter from Pierre letting me know that he now sells bouquets at his store. Almost like he knew I now had 8 hearts with Sophia. I spent a lot of my day that day doing farm maintenance and planning, making sure things were looking good and going smoothly. When I went to town, there was a very long cutscene showing Sophia going around and just having an absolutely great day, which was really cool to see. I, as a character, had no interaction in this scene whatsoever. It was really just Sophia going around and just, I guess, kind of just showing all the fun things that she was starting to finally do. But the fact that Stardew Valley Expanded added this in here to give her character just more story because I had raised my hearts with her so much was super cool to see, and I'm sure they probably did this for all of the other characters as well, which is really exciting, the idea of getting to know these characters more and then open up all these brand new cutscenes. Day 71 was the first pumpkin harvest. With the amount of iridium sprinklers I wanted to make, it required that I had to use batteries that I was already planning on using to renovate Grandpa's shed, but I decided to go ahead and make the sprinklers, and that I would just put off renovating Grandpa's shed for now. Looking back on it, probably not really important since winter was coming up, but oh well. The Stardew Valley Fair came to town on day 72. I went into the Grange display contest very similarly to how I went into the preparation for the luau, which is to say, not very prepared at all. I basically had a ton of quality crops on me and said that that was my Grange, which was at least nice enough to get second place, which is cool. With the tokens I had earned, I had gone to the one game that never fails whenever I do this, and that is this green-orange spinning wheel. If you've never done this before, apparently there's a higher chance somewhere in this game, I don't know what it is, but I've done it so many times that I can't say that it's wrong. Apparently, if you keep on betting green, I think it's 75% or more of the time, it comes up green. So whenever I get to this point in the season, I simply just get like 1 or 2 tokens to get me started, come to this game here, and just bet it all on green. Or, well, not all of it, but enough of it to get me to 2,000 star tokens. That way I can get my second star drop of the playthrough. Day 73 was a simple chores day. I went to Robin's to move my farm buildings to a new location that I made to the south of my farm, and then I went to the bridge east of Pelican Town to do more puppy fish farming for Sophia. I bought a ton of yam seeds on day 74 to finally fill out all of the missing sprinkler areas. Day 75, with my new big barn complete, I went to Marnie's and bought the farm's first goat. And since I was already in the process of upgrading my buildings, I went ahead and started upgrading my coop to a big coop as well. With all my new crops, I was able to finish the pantry room in the community center, with Junimos fixing the greenhouse later on that night. It was a simple mining day on day 76, nothing more, nothing less. Every now and again, I still like to do some farm cleanup, maintenance, and of course checking to see if there's any sort of layout changes that I want to make, and on day 77, that's pretty much all I did. On day 78, after processing geodes and buying the farm's first duck, I did a little more work through the skull caverns. The next day, Gunther visited the farm to thank me for my contributions to the museum, and that I would be getting a reward in the mail the following day, which was exciting. Later in town, there was an interesting cutscene showing Marlin sneaking into the sewer, but for some reason I still didn't have access to it. I was pretty sure that I was going to be getting the reward for that in the mail the next day from Gunther like in the vanilla version, but when I checked the mail, it turns out the only thing that was available to me was 40,000 gold. I mulled it over for a little bit, but realized that because I was in the expanded mod, getting the key to the sewer was just probably going to be a different method this time around. Oh well, something to be figured out later. I figured I'd go ahead and build a stable to get a horse on the farm, making getting to and from places much less of a chore as well. I also got my 10th and final heart with Sophia, triggering a great final 10th heart cutscene in her home. Day 81 was a good luck day, so I went back to the Skull Caverns to try and seize the opportunity to get more iridium ore, but also maybe see if some battery packs might drop along the way. I took it easy on day 82, rearranging a little bit of the farm and also making room for a brand new shed. That way I could start putting all of my construction and maker things away and out of sight. Marnie sent a letter in the mail the following day informing me that she was now selling auto grabbers, incredibly helpful pieces of equipment to save time on gathering animal products, so I made sure to spend a lot of money on 2 of them. That night was also Spirit's Eve, and the biggest notable difference this time around was that the maze in Stardew Valley Expanded is vastly larger, and while certainly still not the most complicated maze ever, it definitely is a little more complicated than the vanilla version. You still do get a golden pumpkin at the very end as your reward, which is still very cool. The final day of fall, day 84, and the day I realized I messed up planting my pumpkins from a couple of weeks ago. When I planted a big batch of them, I didn't water or didn't have enough time to water some of them, and I guess I wasn't really paying attention to the math of it all to see that 1 day difference meant the difference between them being able to grow before the season ended and passing over and not being able to. And unfortunately, it was a good amount of them. So what a way to end fall, as I unfortunately had to sit and just watch as the pumpkins I bought would be no more soon as we transition from fall into winter. First day of winter, day 85, and with 2 hearts now with Marnie, I used this as an opportunity to grab Lewis's shorts from her bedroom and return them to the rightful owner. I think. Anyway, because of winter's forages, I was able to at least complete the crafts room, repairing the bridge to the quarry that night. As I made my way to the quarry on day 86, I ran into Krobus. I followed his footsteps through the park in town and got the magnifying glass from him, giving me the ability to get secret notes now. I remembered on day 87 that I needed to get heaters for my coop and my barn. After taking care of that, I dropped off my axe at Clint's to get upgraded, as well as had Robin start working on the final upgrade for my barn. On day 88, I went to that cave that's in the quarry to progress through and get the golden sight that's at the very end. It's probably not incredibly helpful at the moment, and probably won't be helpful for me for a while, but nonetheless, I still think it was a nice thing to get. Both my gold axe and my deluxe barn were completed on day 89. Between now and day 91, a majority, if not all of my time and energy was end up spent mining in the Skull Caverns, testing my luck for treasure, and gathering as many resources as I could. Day 92 is the annual Festival of Ice Fishing Contest, and this is actually one of my favorite contests in the year, as I actually quite enjoy fishing in the game. I know not a lot of people do, but I actually find it to be a nice challenge. I ended up winning the whole thing, catching a total of 5 fish. I used day 93 as a simple farm chores day, and I guess a pseudo-relaxation day. The next day, I started the final upgrade on the coop, with some fishing the latter half of the day to recoup the losses. No pun intended. On day 95, as I was exploring and finishing up my night, I headed into Sophia's house to look around and saw that because of our relationship status, I could actually use her bed to sleep in for the night as well. I had never done this before, as I have never gotten to 10 hearts with any other of the NPCs in the game. So I woke up the next day for the first time ever in some place other than my house on day 96. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe fishing became a little more relaxing over this season. Maybe it had something to do with the fishing festival or the fishing contest, but after I bought a workbench from Robin to put into my shed, it was an all-day fishing day on day 97. On day 98, after buying some rare seeds from the traveling merchant, who knows, maybe I was starting to get into the festive giving mood. I spent the rest of the day giving gifts to a ton of people. I had been spending all year talking to and giving gifts to Sophia that I felt like I was forgetting everyone else, so I don't know, I was just going around talking to everybody. Day 99 was a special day for my cat Yammy and I. I had made it a point up until today to always try and pet Yammy whenever I could remember, or put water in Yammy's bowl, and I got the dialogue today for the first time ever that Yammy actually loves me, and that was great because I had never really ever remembered to do that on any other playthrough, so it was really cool to see that my relationship with the cat that we adopted to be that high. And here we are, day 100 of the playthrough. I did not accomplish much on day 100, and as you can see, for the most of winter in year 1, I didn't really accomplish much, as there's really not much to do with there not being any crops to grow, and of course with there not being much maintenance to do until the beginning of the new season. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to more or less just talk about this playthrough and how I felt about it. As you've seen, I was able to romance Sophia, get her to the point where she was my girlfriend in the game, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get to a point where I could marry her before the 100 days was over. I still needed a mermaid pendant in order to do that, but given the fact that I was in winter and it wasn't going to rain in order for me to be able to acquire that on the beach, it just wasn't going to happen before the end of the year. And while I know that I can use a rain totem in order to be able to make it rain during the winter and then access that mermaid pendant, by the time I'd realized it, I was already a few days in and the 100 days was getting ready to be over, so I figured I'd go ahead and just leave that for the next 100 days. I wasn't able to complete the community center, obviously, which is totally okay by me. As far as I can tell, there wasn't really too much different in the community center. All the bundles were the same. All of the rewards were the same. But beyond that, this is actually a goal that I accomplished during my first 100 days of Stardew Valley, being able to complete the community center before 100 days. So I had already checked that box, and I was actually able to get a decent amount of the bundles done just in this 100 days, but I wasn't working so hard to get it completed, so it's really no big deal to me that I wasn't able to complete it all before the end of this video. In regards to new characters, new locations, and new events, I thought all of the new cutscenes that I was able to experience just within this first year were really awesome. As I mentioned many times during the video, I thought that the addition of brand new cutscenes for a lot of the older characters as well too, or just new cutscenes in general to give more life to not only just the townsfolk, but the town in general, I thought was really great as well too. And yeah, I tried my best not to look at any spoilers when I got done making this video because, as I mentioned before, I know for a fact that there are numerous characters and numerous new locations that I've yet to discover, primarily because of the fact that I don't think you can discover some of them or most of them in year 1. You probably can discover some things, which I didn't discover here, but I looked at maybe 1 or 2 things and I immediately clicked off because I then figured out that a lot of the stuff that I wanted to experience in this mod new-wise is most likely going to be experienced in the following year. So for the most part, this 100 Days of Stardew Valley Expanded was more or less just kind of a recaptured telling of a very long portion playthrough of my time in Stardew Valley Expanded, at least the first 100 days. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I do plan on having this farm go a little bit further than this, especially because there are so many new things that I still need to see, and this will definitely go into year 2, so I will be, over the course of the next month after this video gets posted, be recording my 200 Days of Stardew Valley Expanded. I'm sure that I could have done year 1 and year 2, but for some reason I just like doing these 100-day videos. They're quite fun to make and quite fun to do, actually. So if you are interested in seeing what happens in the next 100 days of this playthrough with my new family, with Sophia probably, with hopefully experiencing a ton of new areas, meeting new people, and seeing what the rest of Stardew Valley Expanded has to offer, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to like this video as well too. That is one really fast way to let me know that that video is something that you all are really excited to see. But regardless, I am still excited to record that and bring that to you all here on the channel. For now, everyone, thank you all so much for enjoying my first 100 days of Stardew Valley Expanded. I certainly look forward to seeing you all in the next 100 days, and until next time, everyone, have a wonderful day, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.